Hi, this is Elisabeth Hancock, host of the Great Awakening podcast. So, this week I wanted to talk about something that's really close to my heart, and that is the concept of Avalon. Avalon is said to be in the British Isles, it's said to be in Glastonbury, but it's also referred to as an island, which got me thinking about England itself, or England, Wales, and Scotland, the British Isles, as being Avalon. So, all of it being Avalon, because of course we are an island. And understanding what I now understand about consciousness, if Britain was Avalon, then it still exists. It still exists in our collective consciousness. And we can, of course, like anything, we can connect to this consciousness or the consciousness of Avalon whenever we want to. So maybe, like me, you also feel a deep connection to Avalon, the myths and legends surrounding Arthur, Guinevere, Merlin, the Lady of the Lake. And also when we think about the Lord of the Rings, this connection to the Fae, to Tuatha De Danann, the elves, the light beings, the dragons, the unicorns. We can see these concepts coming up in our favorite films, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and we feel a deep connection to it. And possibly all of us do, looking at the popularity of The Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, which is a worldwide popularity, not just in England itself. But certainly I've always felt this deep connection, and I am British and Welsh. So just coming back to the concept of consciousness again, and how we are surrounded by consciousness, we live in a collective consciousness. We are essentially energy fields. We are consciousness ourselves. Consciousness is creating this physical reality. So, in a sense, it's everything. And as we know, consciousness also spans across time and space. It spans across different dimensions because at the end of the day, dimensions are states of being. And even though it's something that we can see with our eyes, dimensions are not places to go, but realms that we can connect to with our own frequency, our own vibrational frequency. As I wrote about in my first book, Work Your Energy, our brain filters out what we see around us. And there's actually a lot more that we are able to see. Our eyes are able to see a lot more, but the brain filters out what it doesn't understand, what doesn't sound logical or rational to it. Our brain already has the ability to connect to 11 dimensions, but we know that our brain has been downgraded in some way. We've sort of been dumbed down. I suspect in the past we were able to connect to other realms, other dimensions in a way that we're not able to today. Everything is frequency. Our brain is essentially a piece of hardware that translates these frequencies into what we perceive to be physical matter, aka reality. But quantum physics has shown us that none of it is physical, and we are only connecting to less than 1% of the visible light spectrum. That's more than 99% of physical matter, or light, that we cannot currently see. As our DNA is changing through the collective consciousness, which in turn is changing via the shifting energies of our planet, such as light codes coming in from the cosmos, crop circles, telepathic transmissions, and what we would call star seeds or higher consciousness people from this planet, we are moving from a 2 DNA stranded being to a 12 DNA stranded being, as I believe that we were originally, which in turn is restoring the true human form. Geneticists can already see that our DNA is changing, so we have evidence of this, but they don't know why. From my studies into wave genetics, I feel it is all the things that I mentioned above. Our DNA is affected by energy and light, and studies show it changes continuously throughout the day. So everything that is happening in our world is affecting it. And this is what the deep state or 13 Illuminati families know. They know it is our consciousness that is creating this physical reality we see around us. We are also the majority, not them. So if they work on hijacking our consciousness, our collective consciousness, then they can rule this world. Because in a sense, they're tapping into our energy fields, hijacking our energy, and then using that to create this realm, to create this reality, create everything that we perceive and see around us, which isn't real anyway. So I think that's how all of this works. And that's why I feel we are the ones in power, not them. They also know this. And that's why they've been keeping us in low vibrations of fear, struggle, and misery for millennia. But it's all an illusion, and none of it is real. They just happen to own 99% of the media companies, and we have been watching their brainwashing films and reading their brainwashing newspapers for decades. I suspect that they even started World War I and World War II as well, from my research into it. But now, as the energies keep shifting and we are ascending, if you like, we are now moving back into our original selves, what I call the true human form. And our DNA starts to get back to being an 11 or most likely 12 stranded DNA. We will be able to connect back to multi-dimensions again. And one of those is the realm of Avalon, I feel. I think that J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote The Lord of the Rings, shows us what Avalon looks like in his books, especially the Silmarillion and The Lord of the Rings. He got the terms of middle, lower, and upper earth from the Mayans. But the Mayans go back thousands of years and have seen the previous worlds before this one. The indigenous people are already multidimensional and can see and hear far more than we can. They listen to the stars and the earth and receive guidance and wisdom from them. They see more entities and beings than we do, showing us that we in the Western world have been closed down in some way or forgotten who we are. The more we become heart-led and non-aggressive as a species, the sooner we will be able to connect to them again. But I think that we can still connect to them now with our own consciousness and our own mindsight and our own telepathic abilities. Just as we can connect to everything in the universe, we just need to learn how to tune into that right frequency. And if you've ever felt connected to Avalon, the Fae, the Tuatha De Danann, the Celts, the Druids, the witches, the wizards, Merlin, and even the Nords, then you probably have these bloodlines running through your blood. And that's why you feel connected. That's why you can hear these things, feel these things deep within your own being. Because your blood, your DNA, is connected to them. This connects you to these ancient times of Arthur, Merlin, and the Lady of the Lake. I feel these people are still around in consciousness, maybe not physically, but they're still around in consciousness, which means that we can connect to their consciousness and download energies, healing energies, information, this deep inner wisdom or knowing for our own journey in this realm on our path here. I suspect also that many of these people in the past went underground into inner earth and are our ancestors. Some of them maybe even went into the sea, the ocean. Some of them maybe even went into space, into spacecraft or whatever space is, maybe even walking through portals. If our world was a multidimensional world, then it had portals that connected to other realms, other dimensions. I feel that this is what it is. And we can see this, our world, if you like, or our universe as being like the flower of life, but a multidimensional version of the flower of life. So if we can think of the dandelion head. And in a sense, this is how we could see our world, with multiple different portals moving off into other realms, into other states of being, other states of consciousness, and connecting us to this deep wisdom, to other aspects of ourself or other aspects of our DNA, which I think many of us are starting to feel now within our own self, our own energetic memories of who we are and where we came from. I think that we've come from a variety of different places. Just as the Mayans talked about lower earth, middle earth, upper earth, I think also we have also come from those three places, which of course is what we would call inner earth, the surface people, and then space. And like I said, I don't think space is what we have been led to believe it is. And I think that there are portals everywhere connecting us to other realms. I once read an article which said that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote his books so that he could create characters for his made-up or possibly downloaded light languages. He had about 35 different made-up languages, which we can see in the Elvish language that he uses. I suspect he possibly downloaded this information about the old world and the light languages as well, which is why when they talk in the Elvish language in the film, it gives many of us goosebumps as we seem to recognize the sounds, not the words, but the sounds. It is sounds that our heart, soul, and DNA feel into. And this is what I feel spirituality is: a deep connection that we connect to with our emotions and feelings. It is not something we can find logic for. We just have to feel it. This is why it can be dismissed so easily by low vibrational or ego dominant people, because they cannot feel it. Therefore, for them, it is not real. In turn, we then start to doubt ourselves and what we are feeling too, which is why I feel connecting back to our heart and the higher consciousness will change our world for the better. Getting back to our internal memories, our deep esoteric wisdom, our deep knowing about things, things that we feel deep within ourselves to be true, will help us awaken to who we really are, to where we really came from, and to what we're doing here now and why we are here. What is it that we are supposed to be doing now as a collective? When we connect to the concept of Avalon, we are immediately taken into this old world. The living, talking trees, the elves with the long blonde hair, the dragons, the mountains, the hobbits, the giants, all of it. All of these mythical creatures that are talked about in our myths and legends, are they really just make-believe? Are they really things that never happened in our world? Or are we connecting to the essence of truth and the spiritual realms, the mythical realms that probably once made up our world, with the multiple dimensions that were inhabited by these different creatures? But we can also see within our own DNA that we have many different types of people in our world. We have shorter people, we have dwarves, we have giants, we have people now who are coming in at 7 feet. We've had people in our past who have gone all the way up to 9 feet. So what is this telling us? It's telling us that in our DNA contains a lot of information, which I suspect is beginning to awaken now as we awake. Our awakening is awakening the DNA in us, awakening our own genetic memories, and connecting us back to realms such as Avalon, Atlantis, Lemuria, whatever you feel connected to most. And most of us, I think, feel connected to all of it in some way or other. And that's because we are all of it. Our DNA has intermingled so many times. We don't have to share our DNA through sexual relations. Our DNA is constantly being shared with each other all the time. But if we want to look at our blood and look at it in a more physical way, then we can see that our blood types, although we are limiting ourselves to 8 blood types at the moment, our blood types actually run into the hundreds. We also have a new type of blood on the planet called golden blood, because only 43 people are said to have this blood type. So we can see that our blood is changing, which means our genetics is changing, which means that our DNA is changing, which means that our epigenetic memories are beginning to come to life. And one of these epigenetic memories is definitely Avalon, the stories of Avalon and what was in Avalon at that time. And I think they probably existed at some point in our past. And the increasing skeletal remains that we are finding now appear to be providing validation for this too. We found a skull in the British Isles, which looks exactly like the images of dragons from our myths and legends. We have found thousands and thousands of giant remains all around the world. We are now understanding that this old world architecture that we see around us is not Victorian architecture, or if it is, the Victorian ages went on for far, far longer than we understand. It is actually a type of architecture which is able to utilize and create free energy. This means that there were advanced civilizations living way before us. And it also means that our history is not true, is not real. So, what else is not real in our world? What are your thoughts on Avalon? Do you feel a deep connection to this? Is this something which you feel inside your own being, inside your own heart? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Okay, take care for now. I'll catch up with you next week. Bye.